Hey there, everyone. It's Jack Toma here with my good friend DeAndre.
What's up?
And we are here to rank all 12 X-Men movies in the X-Men universe. And it has been quite a while since we did one of these ranking videos. The last time we ranked the X-Men movies was 4 years ago in 2015, when the last movie to come out was Days of Future Past. And since then, there have been quite a few more. And since the X-Men movies have finally come to an end at Fox, we decided that it's perfect time to do a ranking of all 12 of them, from X-Men to Dark Phoenix.
Spoiler alert.
Yes.
My number one is Dark Phoenix. Just kidding.
But just so you know, we will not promise that this to be a spoiler-free video, so if you, for any reason, have not seen any of these movies and do not want them spoiled, please click away.
Spoiler alert.
Not that the 8 of you that are subscribed to me would probably care. So I will start at my lowest, and then DeAndre will follow, and if we have the same on a list, we will just talk about it at the same time. So my number 12 is X-Men Origins Wolverine. And I just can't believe that this movie was approved to come release, and not only that, it cost $150 million because it looks so cheap. Like look, the special effects are laughably bad, and it looks like it was created by people, like a committee that had no knowledge of why this franchise is popular in both comics and the previous movies. Wolverine, I don't think gets very much development in this movie. I don't really feel like I figured out how he went to become the character we know in the original X-Men movie. I feel like it's just the pacing is very bad. It feels like very choppy pacing, but at the same time, it feels like it goes on for like a very long time. It feels very boring. They clearly mess up a ton of characters. Like what they did with Deadpool.
Oh my gosh.
Is like infamous.
Mm-hmm.
Like so much so Ryan Reynolds even knew that this was like a stupid decision to begin with. And I can't believe it just doesn't work. It's just not only does the continuity not mess up, but as long as it's a good movie, I'm fine with the continuity being a bit off. It just kind of annoys me. But the thing is, it's a crappy movie to begin with, so the continuity errors just bug me even more. And they like have Gambit in it for like 5 minutes. He does barely anything. I don't really think the villains are very good. I don't think Danny Huston is a very good William Stryker. I don't think he really gives the same level of like creepiness and interest as Brian Cox gave in X2. I think he just plays the standard military man. Mm-hmm. I think Liev Schreiber does a decent job as Sabretooth, but he kind of doesn't really go anywhere besides just acting creepy. And overall, it's just a very cheap, underwhelming movie that doesn't really do what we all were looking forward to by giving us a great Wolverine movie, which we'd have to wait like another 4 years to get. And hopefully, and then Fox was going to do a whole X-Men Origins franchise, and they all, after this movie, like we were going to get an X-Men Origins Magneto after this, and but that kind of got canceled.
No, we kind of got it that later.
Well, yeah, but we got First Class, but that's not really like the complete... Like, basically that whole segment where Magneto's hunting down, like, the Nazis, that was going to be the whole movie.
Oh, wow.
But apparently it was going to be Ian McKellen, DH, the whole movie.
Wow. Okay.
Which, first of all, I love Ian McKellen, and I love him as Magneto, but not only I don't think the visual effects would be ready for it, are nearly there at that point. Like, look at Patrick Stewart in this movie.
Yeah.
He looks terrible. But not only that, but I do think Michael Fassbender is a better Magneto.
Yeah.
Especially a younger Magneto.
Yeah.
But overall, just a real failure of a movie. But at least I will say it's very entertaining on how laughably bad it is. When I first watched this, it was with DeAndre, and we had so much fun just making fun of it the whole time. Because I wasn't going in expecting it to be a good movie.
Can we please watch that later?
Oh,
can we please?
I don't know if it's that laughably bad. The only thing that I would say is genuinely good is something a lot of people have said is the opening credits where
Fantastic.
we see them. They had made that like the majority of the movie. I would love that. Actually,
Yeah.
The director wanted to like have Wolverine suffer PTSD. But the studio thought that was too dark.
Wow.
Once again, Fox has kind of a reputation for if they don't have a well-known director, they give them no room to work with and bully them. Except with Deadpool, because they gave them no money for that. And which is why I give Fox no credit when they release a good X-Men movie. I just give the director and the writers credit and assume Fox just left them alone and gave them money. Except with Deadpool, they didn't even give them money for that one. You suck, Fox. Okay, what's your number 12?
My number 12 is X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Oh, no, it's not X-Men
Dark Phoenix. My bad.
It's just Dark
Phoenix with the X at the end.
We don't want to call it an X-Men movie.
It's more Dark Phoenix X.
Okay.
They made that important. I put this at the bottom, and because really there was nothing that I enjoyed in the movie that actually happened. There were things that I thought could have been great, like the idea of Charles Xavier not being this complete idealistic perfect man. I thought that would be interesting, but they didn't really show it to me as much other than people complaining about it, and I didn't really enjoy that much. And the aliens were terrible.
Oh, that was the worst part of this thing.
It was so
shoehorned.
It was so bad and such an afterthought.
It felt shoehorned, yet it's still a crucial part of the movie.
Yeah, and that was terrible. It just felt like this was the movie that no one wanted, in my opinion, because it just, it was going to be this big ending for the X-Men, but it didn't feel like it. Just felt like, oh, we got to push this out.
Like, X-Men Apocalypse would have been a better ending.
Heck, Logan was the ending for me.
Yeah, I remember after X-Men Apocalypse, you were like, oh, they should just reboot now. And I was like, I don't know. I want to see where they go with this. And then I want them to end it soon, but I would like them to have a conclusion movie. I changed my mind. I wanted to end with
This
Apocalypse.
Was not a
Apocalypse
conclusion.
would be a better ending, because at least, it's the forming of the X-Men. The X-Men have finally, come into being. And that would have been a better ending than what we got with this. Oh, boy.
Yeah, this was terrible.
This is probably, so far, the worst comic book movie I've seen all year. And I probably will stay that way unless Joker is really bad, which I don't think it will be.
But you never know.
Well, yeah, trailers have been misleading. For instance, I thought trailers for this made it look pretty decent.
Yeah.
But
Oh, no. Okay, I was just going to say, since we already talked about it, my number 11 is X-Men Origins. And the reason why I put X-Men Origins above this, actually, is because, like you said, it was almost enjoyable how bad it was, that I would rather rewatch Origins than I would rewatch Dark Phoenix.
I have that thing with the first two episodes 1 and 2 of Star Wars, where I find episode 1 so laughably bad, I think it's better than episode 2, because that's more boring to me.
Yeah, see, I put Dark Phoenix more boring than Origins, just because I'm just not invested at all. And I'm not invested at all in Origins either, really, but it's just enjoyable because it's so bad. While this is just so bad it hurts, because it should, I wanted Dark Phoenix to be, that great conclusion. They had so much potential. They had Michael Fassbender, and they have James McAvoy and all that, but everything else I just wasn't invested in. So,
well, make sure you talk about Origins a bit, because it is.
Well, we kind of talked about it already.
I mostly talked about it.
Well, yeah, but I agreed with.
Okay,
with
you
what
said a couple. Okay, whatever.
Again, I put it above Dark Phoenix because I like Wolverine, even though this didn't give me that character really. But it just Origins is just more enjoyable to me than Dark Phoenix, just because of how bad it is.
I honestly found Origins more hollow. At least I felt like I got some good character moments with Dark Phoenix.
There were definitely moments.
Yeah,
in Dark
I didn't
Phoenix.
feel I got a single character moment. I was like, yeah, that's cool. I felt everything felt very hollow and shallow with this movie. It gives me nothing but a fun laugh. That's only how stupid it is. Not one joke I thought genuinely made me laugh because it was a funny joke. It was because of how stupid it was.
Well, this is something I say all the time. Where Dark Phoenix and X-Men Origins Wolverine, they're trash.
Okay. I think I got some actual genuine enjoyment from Dark Phoenix. With not that I think it's a good movie, but I think there's things I genuinely like about that movie. There's nothing I think is genuinely good about X-Men Origins.
Here's the definitive reason why I put Dark Phoenix at the very bottom. The theme that they use in Dark Phoenix, musically, is not the X2 theme. And this could have been the perfect
Yeah,
time to use
they
it as the
got
conclusion.
And they got Hans Zimmer, who gave his most boring score I've ever heard.
It was terrible.
It was, I don't remember, I tried listening to it afterwards, I gave up after like a couple
boring.
minutes because I couldn't hear anything worth watching. Why would they get rid of John Ottman if they were just...
I don't know. But the music, though, in the opening scene of Origins goes with the
I haven't seen it.
montage.
I haven't seen it.
Well,
recently
that's the only enjoyable part of X-Men Origins is the opening scene. So,
Well, yeah. Okay, my number 11 is X-Men The Last Stand. Because although Dark Phoenix is a mess, I think at least I feel there's like every arc I feel gets enough screen time to be developed. There's way too much going on in this movie, and nothing gets enough time. I actually thought in Dark Phoenix, the Jean Grey's arc gets enough time to be fleshed out. I don't think it's 100% done well, but I think it's given enough time to flesh out. The Phoenix story feels like is a side plot in this movie. And it's done a major disservice. I think Famke Janssen has like nothing to work with in this movie, which is why I think the Phoenix is kind of a boring character in this. Because most of the time it's not. They tried to do. I thought we were going to get like a multiple personality thing with the Phoenix in this, but we only really get like Jean Grey, like the one we knew from the first two, like just ask Logan to kill her, and then all the other times.
Well, there's some.
It's just Phoenix. It's just Phoenix like staring at people basically after that. Really, the main villain is not the Phoenix; it's Magneto again.
Yeah.
And Ian McKellen still does a good job, even though Magneto's more of just a cheesy comic book villain that gives one-liners like, "Where did the pawns go first?" Or "Charles always wanted to build bridges." I feel
it's a great impression. I think you should just play him.
Yes. Is that genuine or is that a joke?
It's genuine.
Okay, so it sounded kind of sarcastic.
No,
okay.
I'm serious.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
They actually did some stuff in they actually something I thought could have been interested that they didn't do anything with, which is one thing I think they actually did a little bit more with in Dark Phoenix, was the whole Professor X did something morally questionable that goes against his own teachings. But really, he has one argument with Wolverine, and then he dies. That's it. At least that, you have to admit, Dark Phoenix at least gave a bit more to that arc than that.
Okay.
Like, this took the Professor... You know the term being Professor X?
Yeah, right.
This took it to... Because the first movie, he's put into a coma. The second movie, he's mind-controlled. This decided, we'll just kill him. There's way too many, like... there's just way too many, like, little... We also have to get, like, Rogue having her thing, and... Iceman is made kind of unlikable. The fact that he just cheats on her. Like, there's actually a deleted, extended version. You know the scene where you, like, him and Kitty kiss? There's an extended where it seems like he's like, oh, it was a mistake. But no, in the original, they just have it where he just kisses her. And so it kind of looks like a jerk. Then it makes Rogue get rid of her powers. Oh, Rogue is so underutilized in this. Rogue, I thought this was going to be the movie where Rogue has a power that would be really cool to see in action, because she can just randomly take multiple mutants' powers, and they don't do anything because she's just written out of the story. One thing that's in all the X-Men movies is there's always, like, the villains usually have a henchman that isn't really much of a character. They're just there to show off cool powers, and I'm fine with that.
Right.
I think they were trying to make the Juggernaut a character, and it really fails. Because if he was just the silent, like, intimidating, like, villain, I think he would have worked a lot better. Maybe with a better design, because his design sucks too.
It's terrible.
But they decided to make him, like, kind of a funny, like, side villain, and none of his jokes work. He's just he's basically like Origins. He's hilarious, but in all the wrong ways. Don't you know who I am? I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
Oh yeah.
The movie that's so artistically deprived that it has to steal from someone who dubbed over an episode of the X-Men cartoons.
Dang.
Real nice there. I think there is some merit. Once again, there is some good stuff I like in this. I think it gets that it feels like an epic movie.
Yeah.
Like the end battle, I think is cool. I think that the Wolverine killing Jean would have worked better if there was more time devoted to that, but it's still kind of big and feel. Yeah. I do feel like there's a couple conclusion to, like, arcs I like. I do like kind of that conclusion with Iceman and Pyro.
Right.
I really like Kelsey Grammer's Beast in this. I like the discussions they have about the morality of the cure and whether it's a good thing or not. But overall, this film is just a mess. There's so many characters that are in here just to be there. Like Angel is just there and doesn't do anything, and he feels like he's supposed to be an important part of the movie, and he's not. And Colossus, I think, is supposed to be one of those characters that doesn't get much of a character, but he's there to show off cool powers.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do anything that cool.
Yeah.
Like, the only cool thing I can think of Colossus ever did before Deadpool was the moment from Days of Future Past where, like, Blink, like, makes a portal. Like, he goes through it and, like, falls down and builds up all this momentum, and then they make another portal where he just, like, gets sent up, like, shoot right into a Sentinel. That's the only cool thing I can ever think of Colossus doing, action-wise. But this movie is just too much of a mess, in my opinion, and it just fails. They kill off way too many characters, and that without really any resonance to it. Like, they kill off Cyclops super quickly. They depower Mystique, and it just feels like I'm fine with them killing off Professor X. I'm not actually against that. Like, in general, I don't think it was done that well, though. And I'm actually fine with the ending of Magneto, like, losing his powers.
Or did he?
Oh, yeah, they undid all of this. By the way, at least Magneto, I kind of understand the cure just didn't work. They never explain how Professor X came back to life and looks exactly the same and is also paralyzed. And, because apparently he's supposed to be transferring his body to his comatose twin brother. Mm-hmm. Which, okay, that explains why he looks exactly the same, despite how stupid that is. But is his brother also paralyzed from the waist down?
I don't know.
I feel like this movie tried to do way too much and didn't think anything through. I think it's a complete mess. Yeah. So, my number 10, since you already skipped. Since you skipped over me, I'm going into my number 10.
Well, I just want to say, though, my number 10 is also The Last Stand.
Okay, you want to talk about it then?
Well, yeah, I just want to say, since we're already on it, I don't want to, like, go back.
I did most of the talking.
Yeah, I don't want to go back and
forth. Your opinion in.
I just want to say, I just rewatched this movie recently, before I saw Dark Phoenix, and I think this is the superior Phoenix story. Even though
they barely focus
I know,
on
even though they barely focus on it. That's what I'm saying.
I would agree. I would kind of understand with you saying it's a superior X-Men movie, but it's no way a superior Dark Phoenix movie.
Okay.
I disagree with you on that completely.
Okay, it's definitely a superior X-Men movie with Dark Phoenix in it. How about that? Okay. So, The Last Stand, I think this film had potential to be great. Because, like you said, it feels like an epic. It has a bunch of qualities that you would want in a third movie, like resolving previous conflicts and having cool character moments for characters that you've been close to for the last two movies. But it just tries to shoehorn in too much stuff, which is the problem that third movies have a lot, which is they try to put too much stuff in the third chapter, and it's quite unfortunate. And that's really all I have to say. It could have been great, but they tried too much. Too ambitious.
Yes, my number 10 is Dark Phoenix, and I think this movie is just like X-Men: The Last Stand. It is a mess, but in different ways.
Okay.
First of all, I think this movie is not a mess in the way that it has too much going on. I think it actually has it doesn't have too many plot lines going on. I think every character at least gets some time to shine. I think some arcs get more attention. Like I said, I actually thought the Professor X thing was interesting, and I thought it got more time to shine in this. And I did actually find myself getting emotionally connected to some scenes, like the scene, like the end scene between Eric and Charles.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, it was a nice little ending.
Let me say this: the two moments in Dark Phoenix I liked.
Uh-huh.
The ending with Charles and Eric, and I guess I kind of like when Beast kind of yells at Charles after Mystique's death.
Yeah, I kind of just like some of their reactions to Mystique's death. Like, I think Michael Fassbender gives a really good, like, subtle performance when, like, he's finding out that Mystique was killed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of, like, I think that, like, the way they handled that was pretty good. But this movie is a mess. It's very underwhelming. There's, like, unlike Dark X-Men: The Last Stand, this feels like a very low-budget X-Men movie, despite the fact it somehow cost $200 million.
What?
I'm assuming that's because they reshot the whole third act.
Mm-hmm.
Because this looks pretty... Like, this looks like on a scale level of how, like, epic. I would say this is like equal to the first X-Men movie, which is a pretty, which seeing how that was the first one, obviously it wasn't so super big in how like its scale. I feel like the aliens are stupid.
They're
stupid, and I think they should have been cut from this movie completely. And I think this movie just doesn't really. It's very underwhelming, and I don't feel like this gave a proper conclusion to the X-Men that I wanted.
No.
But I still found some enjoyment in it. But I don't know if I will ever want to revisit this again.
I'm not. I'm probably not. I really didn't enjoy anything in it.
Oh, well,
So
I would disagree with you there, but at the same time, I will not.
I already said I only have two scenes
you.
I like. Like I said, there's only two scenes.
I don't know if there's a good amount. I liked the like kind of. I thought Sophie Turner did a good job as Jean Grey in this. I liked kind of her arc of how she kind of descended into the Phoenix.
Like, she didn't even really do anything that bad. She accidentally killed all those people. Yeah,
and also the whole now the government is going to completely undo everything they built because she attacked some cops.
Yeah,
and worse things have happened in this universe, like when the president got attacked, or when Magneto almost destroyed the whole world. But no, someone attacked a couple cops, which apparently in the 10 years, not one mutant has done that. And by the way, never gets resolved. Mutants are still on a bad state, aren't like on a good state with humanity at this point. Humanity still is fearing them at the end of this movie, so that never gets resolved. And I don't feel like this concluded anything.
Not at all.
I feel like this was just another X-Men movie, and not even.
It's an afterthought. It's a forgettable afterthought.
Yeah. And overall, I would say that if you do I would recommend anyone to just skip this one. Because at least X-Men: The Last Stand, you have to kind of watch to understand future movies.
Yeah.
But although this had more stuff I liked about it than Last Stand, I'd say this movie is less worth watching.
Hey, you know what I'll say about Last Stand? Since you just mentioned it, when I rewatched Last Stand, I'd watched The Wolverine right after it. I think The Wolverine makes The Last Stand better.
Sure. Yeah, they could have just forgotten about it, but they chose to acknowledge the consequences of Last Stand. Mm-hmm. Okay, since I guess you should give your number 9.
My number 9 is, drum roll, X-Men Apocalypse.
Okay.
And you know that we disagree on many things about this movie.
Oh, no, you don't, because YouTube took our review down, so any new viewers will not know.
Dang. Well,
we don't agree on this movie.
So I really don't enjoy this movie, but I rewatched it recently, and I hate it a lot less. I shouldn't say I hate it. I don't hate it, but I dislike it and or don't enjoy it a lot less. It's one of those things that I wouldn't just be chilling on the couch and be like, oh, let me go watch X-Men Apocalypse. I really only rewatched it so I could have it fresh in my mind for Apocalypse, which was a waste because, not for Apocalypse, for Dark Phoenix, which was a waste because Dark Phoenix was terrible. But there are things, though, in this movie that I like. Like, even though I'm not in love with Apocalypse as a character, he is different than any other X-Men villain we've had before, which makes him pretty intriguing. And I like the young cast, of course. And there's, those are things I like. But things I don't like are just...
The Quicksilver scene.
The Quicksilver scene was cool. I do like the first one better.
Which they, didn't give us in Dark Phoenix. They just wrote him out of the movie. They Professor X Quicksilver.
What a shame.
I guess people realized Professor X, they were doing it too much to Professor X, so they stopped doing it. And then they just did Quicksilver instead.
Yeah, but the thing that I'm not sure I like about it is just like the scale of it, and maybe this is bad to say, but I think it's too large of a scale for not being the conclusion. like for it being a middle film, like if
Okay.
they wanted to make a third movie.
Would you be fine with it if it was the last?
I would
X-Men
be
movie?
fine if it was the last X movie because it's like a big world-ending thing, and maybe
So
I
Dark
wouldn't.
Phoenix has made this
It
problem
made it,
exist
yeah.
for you.
See, if Dark Phoenix was a little more grand in scale, I wouldn't really care as much. But now seeing Dark Phoenix, where the climax takes place, what like right in like a steel yard or something, like on a train, like big world-ending plots. I don't know. I just wasn't feeling it. It was just a little too grand for me, for this type of X-Men movie.
Okay.
And I don't like Mystique at all.
Oh, okay.
So there's that too.
Fair enough.
Oh, and that whole the scene with Stryker and Wolverine and all that, that's just shoehorned in this movie. It's
Okay,
cool.
yeah.
It's cool, but like totally unnecessary.
I would probably like it more if the guy they had playing Stryker once again actually was playing Stryker,
Yeah.
not the military standard straight-faced military guy.
Mm-hmm.
Because none of them really, and like the Days of Future Past, the guy they have playing Stryker, I give him a pass because this is Stryker before he went off the
Yeah.
edge. But this is supposed to be after Stryker went off the edge, and he's playing him pretty much
Same,
exactly
yeah.
the same. He doesn't feel like Brian Cox at all, and
I don't even think of them as the same character.
No.
Like honestly, my brain does
I
not
did
register.
I did think it was cool to see the Weapon X Wolverine. It was a better. Hey, they did Wolverine's origin better than
Yeah.
X-Men Origins.
It was definitely cool. It just seemed very unnecessary for
Yeah.
this movie.
Okay, so are you done?
Mhm.
Should we move? Okay. My number 9, which now we're on the movies I like,
Mhm.
is the original X-Men from 2000.
Mm.
And I'd say that this is a very good comic book movie. And I think introduces this world very well. I felt very engaged in like the story they were telling. I think there's a lot of great casting in this. Once, like most people have already said, besides his height, Hugh Jackman is perfect for Wolverine. I think he plays him very well. And he's continued to play him well in every movie except X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Mm.
And he didn't do a terrible job in that. It was mostly the writing. But Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen are perfect as these characters. I think Ian McKellen is probably hit his best in this movie because this is one he's allowed to be the full-on villain, but it's not like the cheesy like type he's playing in Last Stand. He feels like you understand where he's coming
Right.
from, and his and like his mindset makes a lot of sense, and you kind of relate to him. But at the same time, he still plays like you still see this man as evil
Yeah.
and need to be stopped. Although you understand his mindset, you understand it's a very poisoned mindset that will only lead to more destruction and death. And there is some good action in this. When I think of, I really like the fight between Wolverine and Mystique. I think that's very well choreographed.
Cool.
And I think the fight between him and Sabretooth on the Statue of Liberty is pretty good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think this movie is very held back by the time it was released and the budget it was given. Because it wasn't given a very large budget, and I think it shows to the fact that besides a couple, like, they don't really do much with their powers.
Yeah.
It feels like it's held back by that. Like we have someone with telekinesis, laser eyes, and someone who can control the weather got beaten by a guy with toad powers. And it feels pretty like low in scale, and honestly the costumes don't do much for me, and I think that's not the fault of this movie, but it's fault of the time period.
That's why I give movies that came
but at
out
the same
on
time,
Cinemapass.
I still think it's a problem I have with it. Just because I think it's excusable doesn't mean it's forgivable for me completely. But I think I also think the other X-Men characters don't get as much to do. Like I think, like Cyclops. This honestly, the movie Cyclops gets the most to do in, and even then, he seems like he's kind of stuffed to the side. Like the only really other one who gets any any really development is Jean Grey, and that's just because she has a relationship with Wolverine. I do really relate to Rogue's arc. I think she was a good way of like kind of introducing us to like the problems that someone like this would face, and I think her power is perfect to like demonstrate that. I do really like the bond she has with Logan, and I do find this a very like satisfying movie that I would recommend to any comic book fan. But at the same time, I think that the other movies have improved upon this much more in the future, and that's why it's more low on the list for me.
My number 8 is also X-Men. I had trouble in my brain figuring out which one I wanted to put at 8, which one I want to put at 7, but I'm going to put X-Men at number 8, and that's because I think it is restrained a little bit by the time it came out, like you said, but I do really enjoy it a lot. But there are things I feel like if this movie was if X-Men had no movies until like 2016 or so, this could have been a lot better. Of course, because of the budget. And I just think they would have been a little more bold with certain things. I think it does hold back a little bit. But I do really very much enjoy the movie a lot. So I pretty much agree with everything you said.
Okay.
Love Patrick Stewart, Nina McKellen, and Hugh Jackman in their roles. Just a great movie. Great movie.
Okay. So my number 8 is X-Men Apocalypse. And the reason I put this above the first X-Men movie is I think this just feels more like the X-Men to me. Like, to be fair, it is missing one of the key aspects, which is not as much social commentary in this one. But I think by not giving Wolverine as big of a role, it feels more like a team movie, like more of the other. It feels like a whole team. It feels like less like Wolverine and the X-Men.
Wolverine
and the X-Men. And I think I actually like that it's super big in scale. I think it's the fault of Dark Phoenix for being underwhelming, not this movie. Not this movie. I don't blame this movie for being big.
I think it
followed
just
up
hurts
by a
this
disappointing
movie.
piece of crap. But I think I actually really like Oscar Isaac in this. I think his design maybe could have used a bit more work, and they could have like done something to make him look taller. But I find him a very creepy villain. I also find his philosophy very interesting. How he kind of is a false prophet, or that's kind of like able to sway people to his side. Like some of my favorite scenes of the movie are his scene where he's like convincing Magneto to join him at Auschwitz and manipulating like his past and his emotions, and the scene like where he like takes control of Charles and Cerebro. I just found very like, oh man, this guy is scary.
Yeah, and that's what I said about Apocalypse earlier. Even though I don't really like the movie, Apocalypse was at least different than any other X-Men villain we had. But I think I told you this. It didn't feel like an X-Men villain for this franchise. Like, definitely, Apocalypse is a great X-Men villain in the comics. I just don't think it works.
You don't think he works in
this universe? Yeah.
Well, I just found it interesting on the fact that he sees all these like the superpowers of the '80s and thinks that the humanity has fallen to these false gods when he himself is a false god. And this it has some great sequences, like the Quicksilver scene. I really like the climax where they all team up and defeat him. That feels like X-Men to me.
Yeah.
And it has so many, like, maybe it's just like, although, yeah, the shoehorned in Wolverine sequence, but just having like Weapon X just makes it feel more like an X-Men movie to me, because it's, oh, look, it's a comic accurate Weapon X. I just feel the X-Men, feel like this is the X-Men comics finally coming to life, because I feel like even some of the movies that are better than this have held back in that regard, and I feel like this more represents the comics. I understand a lot of people don't like this movie. It does have problems. The pacing is iffy. It feels very long, which it is, but other comic book movies are just as long, and they don't feel like they're going on as long. Like Endgame, I never feel like I'm watching a 3-hour movie. Yeah. This movie, I'm feeling like I'm watching a 2.5-hour movie, and I think some of the tone is not great. Like, we have the fun Quicksilver sequence, and then we have Cyclops realizing that his brother died.
Dang.
And there's some things that I'm like, did this need to be in there? Like, I don't really need Moira to come back. Especially since she's not in the next one anyway, so that went nowhere. I think they actually used Quicksilver to their advantage in this. And, like, they found a way to, like, find a way where they can, like, he doesn't just fix everything without just writing him completely out of the movie. I thought all the performances were very good. I really liked Michael Fassbender's performance in this. Yep. I really liked his arc. And once again, this movie has more like henchmen characters that just there to show off powers. Yeah. I'm fine with that.
You know what? Michael Fassbender, I think he's the MVP of the prequel X-Men franchise.
Okay. Is that discounting Hugh Jackman since he was in Days of Future Past?
No, I think, well, I still say Michael Fassbender is better,
Okay.
at least with Pringles.
Okay. Another problem I would say is Jennifer Lawrence does not care in this movie.
I don't like her.
I don't mind her arc. I think it's a decent arc to take her with, but she's just not really giving enough percentage of like effort into this performance. But overall, I really enjoyed this movie, and I don't, unlike Batman v Superman, I don't feel like I'm in the minority of people who like this movie. I feel like there is like a decent amount of people that like this movie. Even though I would say that I'm not like in the majority of the opinion on this one. But I will continue to insist that I thought this was a good X-Men movie. Despite what you might say, mister. Okay, proceed.
Number 7 for me is The Wolverine.
Same.
Really cool.
Yes.
I really love The Wolverine, and for a while I was not a huge fan of the ending scene with the big robot and everything, but it's really not that bad when I rewatched it.
I think it's because most of the movie is kind of like Logan in that it feels like this could exist. Like, it feels pretty grounded, besides maybe Viperous, who is also...
Yeah, she's the part I was like, I'm not a big fan. But the Silver Samurai, I'm actually not that angry about. I think it's fine.
I don't know. I feel like it's not better than the comics. I think it's like I kind of liked the more classic samurai.
Yeah, but I also like the old age.
But the twist is, I found the twist very obvious.
Yeah, it was obvious. It wasn't,
The action is great in this movie.
Yeah.
It is kind of held back by the PG-13 rating, which is why I think Logan's action, I would say, is better. But I still think they have some amazing action sequences, like the train sequence, or the funeral scene.
Mm-hmm.
I think Logan's arc is great in this.
Yeah, and this is why I love this movie so much. And if it wasn't for the third act, this could be a lot higher on the list.
Yeah.
But The Wolverine, love this movie for the same reasons why I love Civil War and Spider-Man 2 and stuff like that, because they're really character focused, and just what we see Logan go through in this movie and how the consequences that he has to face from the other movies are just manifesting here.
Yeah, Wolverine. Logan's a character that's constantly haunted by his past and his animal nature.
Yeah,
and it's interesting to see how that has progressed, and how they have continued to do. They did that in the movies as they went on.
Yeah,
and I think this was a very solid Wolverine movie that I think is worth watching. And this movie, I feel a lot of people also don't say that they don't like this movie. I feel like I hear a lot of hate on this movie, and I don't get it.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like I've heard a lot of people say they don't like this movie.
I like it a lot. I think, again, it's different than most of the other ones, and I like the dark nature it has to it. Obviously, because of the PG-13 rating, like you said, it can't go quite as far as it'd like to, but still a great movie. I really like it.
This is the best Logan's been since X2.
Yeah.
Because X-Men 3 and X-Men Origins didn't handle him as well as they should have. But I guess you can proceed with your number 6.
My number 6 is Deadpool 2.
Same.
Wow, look at that. I really like Deadpool 2. Fun movie. Deadpool, obviously a fun character. I hope that when Marvel Studios handles X-Men and Deadpool, that they keep this just how it is.
Yeah. I actually found this movie funnier than the first one.
Yeah.
The reason it's lower, though, is I think it's not as tight of a story.
Yeah, that's the same.
I think it has a lot going on for it. Maybe I don't think it has too many characters per se, but I just think, I don't know, it doesn't feel as tight as the first Deadpool movie, and therefore I can't get, it doesn't feel like as I don't get as drawn into it as I do. I do think they did a good job of making this bigger than the first one, though.
Yeah.
Probably because they had a bigger budget.
Right. I really like Cable.
Oh, yeah, Josh Brolin does a great job. Josh Brolin gave us 2 great performances in 2018, less than a month apart from each other.
Yeah, and just like people say about Hugh Jackman and Wolverine, I think Ryan Reynolds is almost born to play Deadpool.
Yeah, so that proves that X-Men Origins Wolverine is the fault of the hack producers. let's see. I like his. I don't know if I like that they killed off Vanessa like super early. Although I know they kind of basically brought her back, which just kind of makes it like that's cheating, by the way. But also, I do like kind of like how Wade deals with that and how like the arc he has to go through on trying to deal with that.
Was that in the trailers or not?
What?
Her death.
No, but she's barely in the trailers.
Okay. Because I wasn't expecting that. I was pretty sure I remember being, in the theaters being like, whoa, they really killed off the
Even though I do hear that they might have done that just because the actress was busy filming Gotham. Which, okay. Choose the TV show that has like a decent fan base, but most people don't care about over the super multi-million-dollar
Did you ever watch it?
movie. No.
I saw, I think, the first 2 seasons, but...
Well, obviously you didn't like it enough to keep watching.
Right, exactly.
But I like a lot of the new characters. I like Domino, I like Cable. I think maybe they should have done the progression of Russell's character could have been done a bit better. His character feels like they kind of rush him from one place to the other to move the story along. Also, I think Juggernaut could have been used better. Still better than X-Men Last Stand, but...
I don't have a problem with Juggernaut.
Okay. The CGI is not great, though.
Yeah, but it's okay. One thing I like... Another great thing I like about this movie is I think this does... It checks off a lot of the things that you want from a sequel. Like, it's bigger, but not, too much. It delves more into the characters, and it adds more characters without it feeling like it's overwhelming, so...
Also, best end credit scene of any X-Men movie.
Oh, yeah.
I almost left before the end credit scenes for some reason.
What's wrong with you?
I don't know. I'm stupid. And then my life was made perfect by that end credit scene.
Yeah.
I just think this movie is great, but could be a lot better if it was a tighter pace in tighter in its storytelling.
Agreed.
Okay, number 5.
My number 5 is Deadpool.
Same.
Wow. If the rest of our list is the same, I'm gonna be amazed. But Deadpool, everything I said about the second movie, first movie does just as good or better.
I'm surprised
tighter,
how well the action and like effects are for how low a budget they gave us. Which is, once again, I give Fox no credit for this movie. They had no faith in this movie and begrudgingly gave it a super low budget because the test screening was leaked and everyone demanded one. So screw you, Fox. I give you no credit. Tim Miller, the writers, and Ryan Reynolds get all the credit. You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Screw
you, Fox.
Great movie. A lot of what gave it a lot of momentum was that it was so different when it came out.
Yeah,
it was definitely unique, and we had never seen anything like it when it came out. And
I think it
set a good precedent.
It did a good job of making fun of the superhero genre.
Yeah,
I think them telling the story out of order helped. Because if we just got this, because a lot of people complain that if you do an origin story, you have to wait half the movie to get to what you want. And I feel like that you if you edited this movie in chronological order, it wouldn't work as well. I think the villains are very hateable, and that's why they work.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Wade and Vanessa's relationship, which is why I'm a little against them killing her off right away, despite Wade's arc that I liked in Deadpool 2. Mm-hmm. I really like their chemistry. I like the Colossus finally got some attention.
Right.
Because he basically got the cold shoulder in every X-Men movie he'd been in before this. They basically gave him one line for every X-Men movie.
Yeah, even though he's a completely different character here.
Yeah, I could probably say every line Colossus has said before this movie.
Do it, you won't.
Okay, it was Wolverine. He's about helping the kids escape. He's like, "Can help. He's like, help them." That's it. And then in X-Men 3, Bobby's looking for Rogue. He's like, "Hey, Peter, have you seen Rogue?" He's like, "I don't know." He's carrying TV. I don't know his exact line there, but somebody's like, "Oh, I think she left." And then X-Men Days of Future Past, they're talking about alluding to Mystique. And it's someone who could change into looking like anyone else. Like Mystique. And that's all he does. That's all his lines.
Wow.
But you really couldn't do a Russian accent for your 3 lines.
Guess not.
Stupid. But I say this is a very entertaining movie, very funny, and very well made.
Yeah,
despite how little faith Fox gave in it, and it became their highest-grossing movie. So take that, Fox, you losers.
Well, are they really losers? Because they made a lot of money, so...
Yeah, okay, great.
Okay.
So and this is how we got an R-rated Wolverine movie.
Yeah. Okay, number 4 for me is X-Men First Class.
Same.
Are you serious? The rest of us...
Yeah, they're going to be the same.
The rest, they have to be. Okay,
First Class. Can I just see your list, or...?
No.
Okay,
no,
well,
because
they're all
maybe
going to be the same.
Not. We don't know. Maybe you don't know. Maybe,
okay.
Maybe it'll be different. But First Class, I really like it because of the social commentary. I like the character stuff it does, especially with Magneto, but also surprisingly with Professor X, because he. Okay, let me just be honest. In the first 3 movies, he really wasn't much of a character.
He's the mentor.
Yeah. So, but these really flesh him out. Yeah. So I really like this movie a lot. Some of the teen X-Men or the X-Men that we get in this movie, they, like you said before, they aren't really like the X-Men when you think of them.
Yeah, this is what keeping this from becoming like this is what keeps, like, the reason X-Men Apocalypse I consider more of an X-Men movie is because it's Cyclops, it's Storm, it's Jean Grey, it's Beast. This is Havoc and Banshee and okay.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I think this would have been almost a perfect X-Men movie if they had, the characters that we know and love. But I don't hold it against it because it makes sense.
Do you think maybe they should have just done a reboot?
If they did a reboot and this was it,
then we wouldn't have gotten Days of Future Past.
Wouldn't have gotten Days of Future Past, but I think this would have been a great movie. Honestly, I probably would put this top 3 if it were.
I do like a lot of the characters' arcs. I think Magneto's is a great arc on how he, like, you build faith, like, that he's, like, growing as a person, growing past just getting revenge, but then that dissension and the betrayal, and how he does grow past just revenge, and that he needs to, like, just against Shaw, and decides that he needs to get, like, strike out against all of humanity, and, like, the betrayal he has with Charles. And I think his friendship with Charles is done really well, and like you said, James McAvoy does a great job. I honestly think I liked Mystique's arc in this, and how her learning to accept herself. This was before Jennifer Lawrence got big, so she actually had to give a crap back then. Or before Miss Hunger Games got too big for these movies. I think the action is very good. I like the climax. I think the music is great.
Oh, fantastic.
I love Henry Jackman's score. I think Kevin Bacon is a good villain.
Yeah.
He's nothing great, but I still think he's pretty intimidating.
Yeah.
And I find his, like, mindset interesting, and his relationship with Magneto. Once again, more henchmen that are just there to show off powers, but they're cool powers.
Yeah.
It's worse if, like, say it's a boring power like in X-Men Origins. Oh, he shoots guns very well.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm just gonna keep crapping on X-Men Origins throughout this whole thing.
But I really love this movie, and the more I think about it,
I just wish
it's pretty great.
There's just a couple problems I have with it. There's just some characters that they could have cut, like Darwin.
Yeah.
Just there to die.
Yeah.
And Angel's just there to turn with little to no development to show it.
Yeah.
And I think some things I feel a bit weak, like I think, like, I don't really get, like, Havoc they're supposed to be, like, we're supposed to relate to him, like, he's, like, having trouble, like, controlling his powers. I don't think there's enough time devoted to that. Also, it's hard to relate to him when he's constantly bullying Hank. Which I actually do like. I like Nicholas Hoult in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish his Beast makeup was a bit better. It looks a bit meh. I think it looked better in Last Stand and in subsequent movies. But I do kind of like how he kind of gets his comeuppance for, like, trying to...
Yeah.
Because he's, for, like, saying that, like, Mystique, because he says Mystique can never be beautiful in his own form, so he's kind of condemned to looking like a blue beast.
Yeah, but great movie. Lots of great character stuff.
It's a shame this movie didn't do better than it did. It didn't do that great at the box office.
It's unfortunate.
Which, thankfully, we still got a big budget follow-up to it, but I think that's mostly because of the premise of, like, the old cast and getting Wolverine in, that we got a big budget follow-up. Okay, so anything else to say on this?
No.
Okay, number 3 for you.
My number 3 is Please Don't Be the Same. X2.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Hey, it's pretty that just shows we have a similar mindset on this. Yeah, I think this movie is better than First Class because it just feels more like an X-Men.
Yeah.
The X-Men to me.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's still held back by the time it came out and the fact that we still have black leather costumes.
I don't mind it.
I feel like I do feel there's a lot of characters that still get stuck to the side. Even though I feel that's less of an issue. Like Storm and like Jean Grey, I feel get more development in this movie. It's mostly Cyclops gets literally written out of the movie completely.
Yeah.
I actually like Brian Cox as a villain better than Ian McKellen as Magneto.
Okay.
Like they're very similar villains, but I find this one more intimidating because he literally has the government behind him.
Right.
Like Magneto couldn't really do that. He kind of has to force his way through everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think Lady Deathstrike is the great silent bad henchman.
Mm-hmm.
Even though because there's literally nothing to her character, she's mind controlled the whole time.
That's how you do a good henchman, though.
Yeah. The Nightcrawler, I think, was a great addition.
Yeah.
Had one of the best openings of any.
Really wish he would have stayed on.
Blame Alan Cumming for not wanting the makeup put on anymore.
Should have recast him then.
Well, true. Actually, X-Men really haven't done that much. They've been kind of against recasting without reason. Like, the only time they've recast is if it's a younger version.
That would have been easy, though, because he's blue.
True.
And really, like, you could have him in a sequel and not have him talk that much.
Yeah, but there is just unlike the first one where there's just, like, a handful of, I think, really good action, I think this is, like, every action sequence I would say is really good. Like, the Wolverine's mansion defense, like...
Oh, that was awesome.
The fight between him and Lady Deathstrike, the fight between, the Blackbird and, like, the military jets. And I really like how they continued Wolverine's like story of him like being eluded more of his past. I just think this movie works very well. I think it takes from what the first X-Men movie and gives it more scale, better action.
Yeah. Did you see it checks off the sequel checklist?
Yes.
That Deadpool 2 did.
Yes. And it's very disappointing that X-Men 3 dropped the ball so hard.
Yeah.
But that's all I have to say. What about you?
This was my favorite X-Men movie for a long time. And then we got 2 other great ones. So, my number 2 is X-Men Days of Future Past.
Well, of course. That's the same, yes.
Oh, okay. Dang. Well, then yeah. X-Men Days of Future Past. This, I think, is probably one of the most unique superhero movies that came at the time when it came out. Because, time travel and blending two casts together.
This is a movie that you do have to have been a fan to, I think, enjoy it properly. I don't think anyone can come into this movie as a first-time viewer
and appreciate it as much. I think you'd still enjoy it.
I think if this was your first one, you'd be very confused. I don't think you have to at least have seen like First Class.
Okay.
And even then, I'd say that's a bit.
Yeah.
But anyway, I love the way that any X-Men fan of this like franchise is gonna love Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
I think it has a lot of weight to it and a lot of powerful sequences. I love the arcs they give to these characters, like the arcs they give to Charles. He feels like, since he's like, his arc of trying to recover from all that he's lost makes him more human than ever.
Yeah.
I think Mystique's arc is great. I think this is like the best that Mystique has been in these movies. And once again, Michael Fassbender is great as always.
Yes.
Even though I feel like he doesn't really get it too much of an arc here because he's basically just Magneto, but still does a great job.
Fine. Yeah.
He's just classic Magneto here. It's not like First Class or Apocalypse where we get like a whole arc with him. He's kind of just there to be Magneto, and it works. And it's great to see Wolverine interacting with this cast and not taking any of their crap. Quicksilver scene was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And there just feels like so much weight to this movie and so much importance to what's happening that you get very invested with going on, and so many little things that only fans of this franchise will get, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I think Peter Dinklage is a really good villain. Once again, he's not like the best X-Men villain, but I don't think he really needed to be. He really works for the movie we have. And I think they did a good job just not like repeating, like he feels different from like say Stryker.
Right.
Like his motivation is different. He doesn't hate mutants. He just is using them to unite humanity, as like a means to an end. And I just find the whole time travel thing very interesting. Let's see, the only problem I can think of is I wish the future had been better set up and we got more of it.
I think my only problem is not even really with this movie, but with what it did for future movies, which is it totally messed up timeline because the people who made the movies afterwards, they just didn't care about like what this movie did, and I think it made the rest of the movies a little more confusing.
Yeah, but this honestly probably has one of my favorite scenes in any superhero movie, which is like the scene where like the future, like everyone's about to get killed in the future,
Oh, yeah.
and Mystique has to like, it's all like focusing on Mystique and whether or not she'll make her choice, and just like the framing and the editing and the music is perfect, and I think it's very powerful. And I also love the ending where Wolverine wakes up in the future.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like the end scene where they do the whole Mystique.
Right. Yeah.
Mostly because
that stuff
I didn't have a big problem with that at the time. Mostly just because it didn't go anywhere. And I would say this is my favorite. Like, this is definitely the best X-Men movie, in the fact that it's with X-Men in the title. It's not like the best in the universe, but the best X-Men movie. But I do wish we got more of the future scenes, which is why I do like the road cut, because we get a lot more future, like, stuff. The future is more fleshed out, and we get more with the original cast, because it's supposed to be a send-off to the original cast. So I'd like to actually have a little more time with the original cast. Okay, I guess that's all we... do you have anything more to say? Well, obviously we all both have the same number one.
Yeah, Logan.
Yep, I think this is better because it better stands alone than the X-Men Days of Future Past. Unlike you don't have to have been a fan of this franchise to enjoy Logan, even though it helps.
Right.
Like, this movie, I think does what the Wolverine did, but a million times better.
Right. But I think having the Wolverine already as a movie, I think does help this, because it kind of sets a precedent of what Wolverine could be in a darker, standalone kind of setting. But Logan's a great movie. I love everything about it, honestly.
Yeah, I love what they did with Professor X. I think Patrick Stewart gives a great performance. You really feel sad for what this, like, person that we looked up to in the old X-Men movies, how he's, like, degraded down to. And, like, there's some amazing scenes, like, just with the raw emotion of how much these characters have suffered. Like, that scene where, like, the Professor X is, like, at that farm, like, and he's like, realizing, like, what he's done.
Oh.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And it's this, and just Logan's arc of, like, just, like, he feels so, like, everything good he's done is gone, and that he's nothing left, like, really worth living except Charles. And that's why he, like, protects him so much. And he just feels like nothing, like, and, like, he's literally forced back into, like, the people that, like, turned him into, like, the animal that he feels he is, like, the weapon that he feels he is. And it's just it's a very good, the action is great, helps that it's rated R, so it's just awesome to see. My mom does not like this movie for that very reason. And I'm glad that Fox finally let this be an R-rated movie. And I think it works a lot better because of it. And I love, like, the introduction of Laura. I think that like is what, like, helps move Wolverine forward and helps, like, really carry his redemption arc.
Yeah. And,
like, how the ending is just very satisfying, despite being very sad. I think is the conclusion this franchise needed.
Which is something that
Dark Phoenix robbed us of.
Yeah.
You sucked, Simon Kinberg. You ruined the Dark Phoenix saga twice. How did you write Days of Future Past? You don't have the talent for that. So you had paid someone else to. You couldn't have written the X-Men Days of Future Past. You're not that talented. Screw you. But I will always. I'm glad we got such a great conclusion for this character that we've known for so long. Anything else?
I got nothing, man. Logan is the perfect example of how to conclude a character. And obviously, Marvel took some notes with Iron Man. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it.
Yep, that's our thoughts on all the X-Men movies and how we would rank them. For my 8 subscribers, put your ranking in the comments. And we will get back to you in a little bit with our ranking for the MCU. And thank you for watching, and goodbye.